Patreon Q&A number 134. I want to thank all 126 of my incredible patrons. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to support me the way that you have been. And to everyone else listening, there's going to be spoilers for all the series I'm going to be talking about, so tread carefully. Sonicron asks, do you think Blast will partake in any of the action in this upcoming fight besides appearing to save Child Emperor, or just drop off Flash Saitama? So I would love it if he did, of course, but I think it's extremely unlikely that we'll not only see Blast for maybe 1 or 2 more panels in this arc, but him just showing up in general to like help them fight. I just don't see that happening, or I just think it's very unlikely at this point. Is it possible? Sure, but it would be too good and maybe even problematic at the same time. And the last time that we do see Blast in chapter 139, he says like, for now we part ways, but I'm sure we'll be meeting again. Send my regards to Sitch and Tatsumaki. So that likely means that he's probably not going to do anything else outside of potentially saving Child Emperor, which it still hasn't been confirmed yet, so he may or may not have done that. And going back to me saying that it's possibly problematic, that's because he's like just straight up too strong right now. If he were to just be on the battlefield helping them against the Cadres, I guess that would really lower the stakes, because at this point it seems like Blast could potentially maybe even solo all of the Cadres at this point. I mean, obviously I can't say that for sure because we just simply don't understand the full extent of Blast's powers. I mean, we don't even fully know how strong the Cadres are in the manga's continuity at this point. But given the hype and given Blast's feats, I would personally put money on him maybe potentially taking down most of them, if not all of them. And that's just by himself. I mean, if he has the help of the other S-class heroes, then victory is almost assured at that point. So Blast kind of has to like just leave and not come back until a later point in the story. Your second question, do you think Genos' fight against the Cadres will go similar? Not that he was saved on the brink by Fubuki, or do you think that he might stand up a little bit better of a fight? So at this point, I'm really not sure, because it seems like Genos is essentially at his limit and there's not much else he can do. I mean, honestly, he's kind of done enough. Like, Genos has certainly played his part in this arc so far, but also, like I said, I'm not really sure what else he can really do, because in theory he should be spent at this point, right? So I think it will more or less play out kind of like the same way it did in the webcomic. Like, he's eventually going to try to defend Tatsumaki against the Cadres, then he's going to get wrecked by Black S, and then he's going to attack Fuhrer Ugly, and then Fuhrer Ugly is going to transform, and then I guess we'll enter the whole Silver Fang sequence after that, right? I mean, maybe not. The manga's completely different and things could completely change, but in my opinion, I think it'll probably match up with that to some extent. Delamante asks, how would you react if you were in Gojo's situation in chapter 78? Do you think you'd be able to put down your best friend in order to save lives, or would you hesitate and ultimately not be able to do it? So yeah, I mean, I would definitely hesitate and not be able to do it, especially like if it was like a really good friend the way that Geto was to Gojo. I would at least try to constrain them or arrest them, jujutsu arrest them or something. Definitely not kill them. I'm not capable of that for sure, even if I was in the fantastical world of Jujutsu Kaisen. But I mean, I would certainly try to do something rather than nothing. Try to bring them to justice in a non-lethal way for sure, but I don't doubt that I would also hesitate at the same time. Eddie asks, do you think the quirk of the third user could be straight up propulsion, where he simply needs a support item to change directions more easily while using it, coupled with float, he basically could have full Superman flight abilities? So it seems like the third user's quirk could be something like that. And if Izuku were to get like a propulsion type quirk, it would totally makes sense, and especially in combination with his float quirk. But the propulsion quirk would be pretty cool, not only just for float, which, you know, would for sure give him Superman flight abilities, but like I've also said in my videos, like give him like a thunderclap attack or something, which would be incredible. Even though he already kind of has it, I guess he could just go to the next level with it or something, but more so just the Superman flight would benefit from this. Garrett M asks, do you think it's possible that an awakened revive fruit could be used to resurrect people, not like Gecko, but more akin to what it did with Brook? And if so, do you think that Oda would revive Ace? So in theory, I guess it's possible that an awakened revive fruit could revive other people. I don't necessarily think that that's what it's going to do if we ever do see an awakened fruit. Although there's a lot of people that think that we've already seen Brook's awakened fruit, and that's when he becomes like that big Soul King green skeleton thing. But I think having a fruit ability that revives dead people with like no strings attached, like they just straight up come back to life, would kind of be problematic, and I don't think the fandom would necessarily like that. Would it be cool to see Ace come back? Sure, but that's also entirely problematic too. Like, I think Ace kind of needs to stay dead. It would kind of break the story if he came back. I mean, Sabo is already problematic enough. Second question, which S-Class heroes could Moomin Rider with the suit take out, including a My Mask and the Disciples and Sonic? So, I mean, the Disciples he would have a better chance against. Not necessarily sure about Sonic, but I think at this point, his best shot would be against like Purry, Tank Top Master, and Zombie Man. Not even necessarily saying he would win those, but he'd have a better chance than for sure against the rest of the S-Class. We just need to see more from Moomin Rider. He only really has 1 feat at this point, which is comparable to what like a Purry or a Tank Top Master could do, I guess. Geruda asks, do you think Blue will ever make an appearance in the manga? So I can't absolutely confirm that he will because, you know, the future of One Punch Man is unsure at this point. But I'll say that given how things have been, I don't see why there's any reason he wouldn't. At this point, we're just led to believe that the manga will continue to adapt the story from the webcomic. Obviously not a one-for-one recreation, but just the overall story that it's telling, and Blue is obviously a big part of the future of the story, so naturally he should come to the manga. Jimmy P asks, I know the Dark Fruit is combinable with another devil fruit if the person is powerful enough. Well, to be more precise, my question is, did he have to wait till after Whitebeard died to retrieve it? And was there a specific formula or ritual performed? Also, where did Blackbeard gain such wisdom about devil fruits? He doesn't strike me as a studious person like Robin. So it's not confirmed that the dark fruit is combinable with another devil fruit. And there's also no confirmation on how Blackbeard was able to take Whitebeard's fruit. So we've mainly just been speculating about this for years now. A popular theory is that it's not necessarily the dark fruit that allowed Blackbeard to have 2 fruits, but maybe it's just inherently Blackbeard's body, like he has some kind of weird thing going on with him. And it goes back to what Marco said at Marineford when he was like, you know, Teach has a weird body or something. I'm paraphrasing, but he says something like that in regards to like how he could get 2 fruits or something. Some people think that maybe he has like multiple personalities or multiple people within him, and that's why he never sleeps. Like one sleeps subconsciously and then the other wakes up and takes over his personality. That's why sometimes he's so cowardly and then sometimes he's so brave, or I don't know. It seems a little far-fetched, but knowing Oda, it could totally be possible. And as for him taking Whitebeard's fruit, well, it's possible that he had some fruit with him and then waited for Whitebeard to die so that the devil fruit soul or the ability would pass on to the regular fruit, because that's like how it happened. So then he just ate the fruit and then gained the ability, or he like ate a part of him or something, because Big Mom ate Mother Caramel and somehow gained her ability. So maybe there's some kind of correlation to that or something. And then lastly, he actually is a studious person. In like the SBS's, Oda said that Blackbeard's hobbies are like gambling and researching history, and if he wasn't a pirate, he would be an archaeologist. So Blackbeard definitely knows his stuff. I mean, that's how he was able to orchestrate his big master plan in the first place. Lewis asks, did you watch this short clip and rate the disaster level of the monster, Shin Godzilla Atomic Breath? So yeah, I did see this, and it's pretty crazy how powerful he is for sure, but I would say that, you know, minimum high dragon, maybe going to above dragon. I mean, it seems similar to the scale of like the Tatsumaki versus Sairochi fight. I don't think he's necessarily god level, but you know, high dragon, above dragon, somewhere around there for sure. Pretty powerful. Second question, G5 versus Monster Cell Haragiri, who wins? So they both kind of have like similar results against Atomic Samurai, especially in the retcons. G5 just gets pieced up immediately the way that Haragiri did, but G5 is able to survive because Atomic Samurai wasn't able to cut his core, at least in that instance. So, I mean, I assume that Haragiri wouldn't be able to either, and maybe that could lead to G5 potentially defeating him. Mr.Awsome asks, who would win in a fight between Armored Boros and Golden S? So we can only go off of the webcomic Golden S, and I think Armored Boros has more impressive feats than him, so I would say Armored Boros probably wins. But maybe that'll change once you see Golden S in the manga. Second question, what if Goku and Vegeta had gone into the hyperbolic time chamber together during the Cell Saga instead of with their sons? Not sure if much would have really changed because it doesn't seem like at that point in time Goku and Vegeta were quite able to tap into Super Saiyan 2 yet, which was obviously the necessary level of power needed to fully defeat Cell. So I think it ultimately hinged on Gohan being the one that needed to be trained here, not necessarily just pushing Goku and Vegeta as far as they could go at that point in time. 8-Bit asks, I think the reason Sukuna is interested in Megumi is because I believe that Sukuna is planning to take over Megumi's body. Sukuna has multiple techniques. He could possibly have thought of a way to switch to various bodies to gain techniques thoughts. So is it possible? Sure. But I just don't think it's likely, mainly because that's kind of like the brains thing, and it would be a little redundant if Sukuna somehow had this ability. I mean, it's possible, like I said, maybe there's some kind of jujutsu that allows him to do that. But I don't necessarily think that's what he has planned for Fushiguro. But at this point, I think Sukuna's interest in Fushiguro is due to the 10 Shadows technique. I think the full potential of that is somehow going to benefit Sukuna. Maybe he can somehow use that ability to fully resurrect himself or separate himself from Yuji in some way or something like that. I think the 10 Shadows technique is the key here. Samurai asks, could you start off by ranking these 9 characters in terms of strength? So this is a rough list, of course, but here we go. Here's what I'm thinking. I put a question mark next to Teach because we haven't really seen him do much post time skip, and I'm not necessarily sure how strong or weak he is in relation to the rest of these characters. And then for your second and third question, they revolve around Monoma gaining One For All through his own ability, but then using One For All to pass on other quirks. So I'm just gonna say right now that that's not how One For All works. One For All doesn't give you the ability to pass on quirks to other people. It only allows itself, like One For All the quirk, to be passed on to others. So if he were to get One For All and then along with his ability take another quirk, he wouldn't be able to pass on, let's say, Bakugo's explosion to somebody else using the passing on ability of One For All. That's just not how it works. That's how All For One's quirk works. Like he can just take quirks and then give them to others if he wanted, but One For All only allows itself to be passed on. So in order for your theory to work out here, he would need to copy All For One's quirk. And then even then, I'm not sure how it works out because, you know, with the time limit stuff, would you say you disagree with, and that's fine, but we'll ultimately never know because I don't think this scenario will ever play out. Awakened Saitama asks, who do you think would win in a fight? Awakened Garo and Boros versus the Monster Association, the Hero Association, and the rest of the Dark Matter Thieves, excluding King Blast and Saitama. So I'm not sure off the top of my head, and I don't think it's obvious. Pretty difficult actually, but considering that the Hero Association is going to have Tatsumaki and Metal Knight with them, and then we have everybody from the Monster Association and the rest of the Dark Matter Thieves, I mean, I don't think this would be easy for either side, but I don't know, I'm kind of thinking that Tatsumaki and the full extent of Metal Knight, it's really hard to say. I guess it's like 50-50 at this point, especially since we haven't seen Awakened Garo in the manga yet. I personally would side with the Monster Association, Hero Association, Dark Matter Thieves at this point. Simply because, I don't know, that's just so many powerful people against 2 ridiculously powerful people. Dino W asks, do you think Sharon Carter is the power broker? So I have seen this theory floating around, and it's certainly possible, and that would be very interesting if they decided to turn Sharon heel. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I'm just really not sure. I mean, it also could be that Isaiah Bradley dude, the guy that they went to go visit, who was originally part of the Super Soldier program as well. Not really sure, but I mean, could be Sharon Carter. I mean, that would also explain the situation that she's in, possibly. What's your opinion on the UFC 259 Bantamweight title fight with Peter Yan and the knee he threw? So I'm honestly confused by this because it was such a weird sequence. Like, clearly Peter knew that he shouldn't have done what he did. And I don't like when people try to put out excuses like, oh, language barrier or whatever. No, there's no language barrier. He's the world champion. He knows the rules. He knows that in that situation, you don't throw a knee to a down opponent. It wasn't like a heat of the moment thing where, you know, like it was an accident. Sterling was on the ground for like a second there playing the game. They knew what was going on. So if he was straight up listening to his corner and whatever they said, because some people say that they said through a knee, some people said hit, some people said don't hit. I'm not really sure. I think it maybe ultimately came down to Peter Yan had like a mental fart there. I mean, it does happen even to the best of them. I don't think he should have been disqualified though. I think it should have been a no contest. I don't think he did it to like intentionally foul Sterling, like the way that the ref tried to make it out to be. I think he just simply made a mistake, which, you know, a world champion shouldn't at that level, but I mean, it happens. Snowpeas asked, who would be the top 3 strongest non-devil fruit users? So I guess the top 2 at this point would have to be like Shanks and Mihawk. At least I'm pretty sure Mihawk doesn't have a devil fruit. And as for 3rd place, it gets kind of difficult because it could be Zoro, it could be Garp, it could be Rayleigh, or it could even be Ben Beckman, who I'm also pretty sure doesn't have a devil fruit. Although I don't think that's been confirmed yet either. But yeah, I mean, it's between them. StarReaper asks, if One For All was moved to the One Punch Man universe, where do you see his level being? So I think he would for sure be a dragon, and he could definitely compete against most of the S-class heroes probably. Not sure if he would win, but he wouldn't outright get stomped by all of them. And I don't think he would necessarily team up with any of the existing villains or factions. Given his track record, he would probably try to create his own. Zapphod B asks, seeing Carnage Kabuto return to the webcomic, do you think we might see others from the House of Evolution like Mosquito Girl or Beast King? Will they be stronger than their original forms? It's very possible we could see Mosquito Girl, maybe Beast King too, but more so Mosquito Girl simply for the fan service aspect, but not sure if they'll be stronger, but maybe they'll be, or maybe we'll just simply see them at the peak of their power in relation to the other characters, since they only really fought Saitama and kind of Genos. So maybe us just seeing their true strength will bring them up to speed with the current power scale, possibly. If Dr. Guseno dies and Genos needs repairs, do you think he would go to Drive Knight and end up getting taken over by technology they install on him? Yeah, I think that's probably where things are headed. Like, he'll try to blame it on Metal Knight, and maybe that will give Genos more incentive to trust Drive Knight, and he'll be like, hey, I can repair you now, since you don't have anybody else to do that, and then that's where we lead to him taking Genos over, kind of like how Eraman and Destro are doing with the Neo Heroes and stuff like that. WeeklyFlo asks, do you think Deku fighting muscular and using his arms at such high power is bad or no? I think we'll find out that the gauntlets from the first movie somehow come into play. So I don't think it's bad right now, at least because we don't have an explanation for why he's able to fight the way that he is, unless there simply is no explanation and Horikoshi just somehow glances over what he initially set up with Izuku's damage to his body, which I don't think is going to happen. So I'm sure there will be an explanation for it, but I just don't think it's likely that that gauntlet, I mean, it was originally just one gauntlet from the Two Heroes movie, will come into play. It is very possible, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem personally likely to me, although we are coming to the final act of the series, so it would be interesting if we do come full circle and Rebecca comes back into like the main continuity of the story, or just is introduced to it, I guess. And for your second question, who would you like to see in the new top 10 Billboard heroes? So Mirio for sure, I think he absolutely deserves to be in the top 10, but I don't think Nedry and Amajiki necessarily do, at least yet. Other than that, I'd really like to see Cementos in there. I know that he's a teacher at UA, so, you know, it's kind of iffy if he could even be in there, but I think he's very deserving of it, and he looked super impressive in the war, and I just really like Cementos overall. And then I guess Mount Lady, you know, considering her, she had a pretty good performance in the war with the Gigantomachia stuff, and, you know, she's been a focal point in the series, so I wouldn't be surprised if she winds up in that list eventually. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 126 of my amazing patrons, and if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, simply check out the Patreon. The link is in the description, and the $5 tier will give you access to this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. See you in the next one.